You are now tuned in to Damn Good Advice, a podcast where we bring you the cream of the crop in finance, relationship, and all-around life information from special guests. Remember to share this podcast, and if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe while you're at it. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to Aniva for her superior photography, and I would also like to give a shout out to the Innovation Depot for allowing us to use the podcast studio. Hey guys, welcome to your first episode of Damn Good Advice. I'm your host, JD Lewis, and I am joined by Desmond Parker from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about finding your passion, but before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself, Parker?
I appreciate you allowing me to be your inaugural guest here on Damn Good Advice. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
Thank you very much. I am a 2010 graduate of the historic Talladega College in Talladega, Alabama, the oldest historically black college here in the state of Alabama.
Wow.
I also am a graduate of UAB, a two-time graduate with my master's and my EDS in chemistry education, and I'm currently a PhD student in the Educational Studies and Diverse Populations program at UAB as well.
That's great. And so what do you do exactly at UAB?
So currently I am a clinical instructor or a master teacher in the UAB Teach program. I am also the academic coach for that program. So basically our program is designed to get more science and mathematics educators in the classroom. So right now, nationally and even internationally, math and science teachers are difficult to find. We have some schools here in the state that don't even have a certified math or science teacher. So our goal is to simply train more teachers and to get them in the classroom. That's
incredible. Wonderful introduction. One of the things that we love to do on this podcast, that we will be doing on all future episodes, we're going to start off with one question. And so that one question is, reflecting on your life, what is the best damn advice you could give yourself?
So the piece of advice that I would give myself would probably actually be a piece of advice that I would give to my younger self. And that would be to be okay with going with the flow. Typically, we get so caught up in like this tunnel vision of what success we believe looks like that we end up missing our own opportunities for success and our ability to be flexible when it doesn't happen the exact way that we want it to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having that tunnel vision can definitely inhibit or slow down your goals as you're trying to achieve great things in life.
Exactly. We don't always have everything perfect, and we don't always have everything worked out necessarily the way that we would hope that they would go. But those detours and things like that, those are really pushing us maybe in a better direction than what we initially planned.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for that piece of advice. So today, I know we wanted to talk about finding your passion. What does finding your passion mean to you?
So finding your passion, it's going to focus on looking at that thing that really is going to make you get out of bed every day. And many times what ends up happening for us is we have people who come into our lives and turn us away from our passion.
For sure.
So it might be taking us in a direction or making us do something that we really don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. So in your personal experiences, what are you doing to find your passion, or have you found your passion already?
So when I was in high school, I had this idea that I wanted to go to medical school.
Okay.
So I think I was in love with the idea, but that never really was my passion. Actually, me being a member of the Key Club, and we had this tutoring program that we did every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay. And real quick, so what exactly is the Key Club?
So the Key Club is part of the Kiwanis family of clubs, and basically what we do is community service.
Okay, cool. I just wanted our listeners to know exactly what Key Club is in case that wasn't offered in their high school or something. Getting back on track, you mentioned that it all started with Key Club, like finding that passion.
Right. So it started with Key Club with us doing this tutoring program, and it was at our elementary school. So I went to school in Michigan, Lincoln High School. And so we did like a math tutoring, and then we did reading tutoring.
Right.
And I think I did this for maybe 2 years while I was there, and I absolutely loved it. Now, one thing I didn't really care for elementary kids, but I enjoyed, I think, the process. It really had me thinking, like, maybe teaching is something that I might want to do.
Right.
So when I went off to college, I still was a chemistry major with the intent of going to medical school once I finished. And while I was in college, I tutored for money. So it was really cool to do that. And I think that's kind of what really began to ignite that passion for teaching.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like a lot of these roles of servitude are leading to some central idea here, right?
right. It's like my steps have been kind of shifted in this direction I didn't think that I was going to go. So I did apply to a PhD program in chemistry upon my graduation.
Where did that switch? Like, where did you change your mind about going to med school and you just decided to go and pursue your PhD? When did that switch happen?
I was in the Ronald E. McNair program, which is another TRIO program, which is geared towards putting more minority students into graduate programs, master's, PhD level programs, specifically PhD. And so while I was in that program, I ended up coming here to UAB to do 2 summers worth of research. And I really enjoyed doing the research component. I thought, maybe this is where I want to go, because I was kind of falling out of love of even medical school at this point in college. Like, it wasn't something that I really truly think I wanted to do.
Yeah, not everyone is meant for that particular role.
And I don't think that's where my role was, and I don't think that's where my calling was.
Right.
So I did end up applying to a PhD program, and I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the teaching part of my role as a graduate student.
Where do things go from there?
I was a chemistry teacher for several years. I think it was about 8 years in 3 different school systems. I think you went to 2 of the schools. Actually, you went to 3 of the schools that I taught at.
Oddly enough.
Right. And so I felt as though I began to hone my craft.
Right. So you're teaching for about 8 years. Where to next?
Then I get asked to apply for this position at UAB as a master teacher in the UAB Teach program. So now my job is to prepare teachers, science and math teachers mostly.
That is incredible. You're doing great things. Bringing up the next generation of teachers is extremely important, especially here in Alabama.
Right, because we have some whole districts that don't have a certified math or science teacher. Not to have one, that's scary.
Yeah. So as you found your passion, how would you say it defined you as a person, your career?
So I think my career allows me to feel as though I have put something back into the universe that's positive.
So that sense of fulfillment, that's part of the passion.
For me, it is. And I think that's kind of maybe the selfish side of it for me, maybe. I guess you could describe it, say it like that.
But no, that's what it is. When you find your passion, it should feel fulfilling.
I hope so. Because, if it doesn't, then you might need to go and think about your passion again.
Right.
And
reconsider
and
some
see
things.
if it really is.
Yeah.
But, one thing that we have to be really cognizant of is people coming to steal our passions from us.
Oh, okay. So now it's getting juicy. So we've currently talked about finding your passion. And we reviewed the story of how Parker has found his passion. And now he's going to speak about passion thieves.
Oh, that's good.
And so, well, number one, let's go ahead and define exactly what a passion thief is. And then we'll talk about how to avoid them and, how to be more cautious.
So the thing about a passion thief is it could be an individual, but can also be an institution. So think about schooling, and I'm an educator.
Yeah.
And schools steal passions from people.
They're not doing this on purpose, right?
I think it's the system. It's the systematic way that it's set up. Is that although we try to push kids in different directions, we sometimes end up taking the passion from them.
Right.
And the joy that they find in doing things. So think about like art, for instance. When kids are in elementary school, we encourage them to draw and things like that. And then when they get to high school, it's like the arts, you better be lucky if there's even an art program at the school.
Right.
So we end up focusing so much on the sciences and the maths and the Englishes that we forget about the things that make school fun. One of my good friends, who I consider the queen of art here in Birmingham, her name is Yogi Dada.
Shout out to Yogi Dada in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yes.
We love supporting our local artists.
Yes, and she is an amazing artist. And recently she did a film called Graphica. So in this film, she says, "I never thought I couldn't paint until someone told me I couldn't. I never thought my lines were crooked until someone told me they weren't straight. Wow. And I never imagined I couldn't survive in the world making beautiful things until someone told me I couldn't. This happened to her, where that art world itself took her passion from her.
You're trying to suppress her passion. How do you combat that type of thing? Like, I mean, we're made aware of it, right? Like, we can see it happening, but what do you do? How do you fight against that?
So the best way to fight against that is to find like-minded people.
Okay.
Find people who have similar passions as you and embrace them. Keep them near you. Another thing that we have to do is start early in terms of really getting to the meat of what is the passion of this person and finding people who can be mentors and who can be role models for them as they grow older and begin to go into, bringing their passion to fulfillment.
Right, for sure. So you mentioned one method, which is to surround yourself with people who look like you, especially as a minority. But what else can we do to secure that passion?
So one thing that a passion thief will do is they're going to try to put you into this box of what should be. So typically when the art world, going back to Yogi, one of the things that she found was that she liked this style of like graffiti and African art, and she put it together. But when she went to university, that was not the focus. Eurocentric art was the focus. And so it now is where you're not seeing what you like represented. And so what we have to do is we have to go and push ourselves beyond that. So we have to be willing to go against the grain and to break that mold of what should be expected. And now we're creating our own niche. And the problem is that you're going to get a lot of pushback. Right. And we have to be okay with that pushback, but we have to still push forward.
To that point, myself, what I found is that when you hyper focus on your passion, nothing can deter you from achieving that goal.
Exactly. But you have to have that drive.
Right.
So if you don't have the drive to do it, you're not going to get there.
Right. Acquiring a drive like that, guys, it's all going to come from doing what you love. Try to do what you love. Write it out on a board. Write out your plans. Get yourself motivated. Listen to motivational speakers. Find some quotes. Read some books.
And one thing that I tell people is like you said, write it down. Because if you write it down and you see it every day in your face and you really kind of try to outline a plan to get to the goal, then it's going to make it much easier to get there because you have at least a vision for it.
Yeah. For me personally, when I first got to college, I was pursuing a nursing degree at Jefferson State Community College. And after my first year of college, I decided that I just really couldn't see myself in that role. It just wasn't for me. Now I'm at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I've yet changed my major again, biomedical engineering. So,
and the thing about that is it's okay because you're still on this path, even though you might not be 100% clear about the ending. You might still be trying to find your passion. Yeah. And if you're still trying to find it, that's perfectly okay. Like, I think we also have this thought of timelines. Timelines, right. Of if I haven't done this by the time I'm this age, then I'm a complete failure. It's okay that you haven't reached your final goals by the time you turn 32.
If your goal is a financially driven goal, just something to note for the listeners, the average age of a millionaire is actually 60. So take that into account.
Right, and I'm nowhere near 60. Believe it or not.
Right.
So it's like, it's okay for you to not have everything complete and worked out. It's okay for you to like just be going back to school at 30. It's okay. Because at the end of the day, if you have some type of goal in mind, if you have your passion in mind of what you want to do and you're working to get there, you're doing just fine.
So on our way to finding your passion, I feel like there's a really important concept we should consider. The concept of Maslow's pyramid.
Was really called Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
It's basically you have to meet certain needs of the individual in order for them to reach what's called self-actualization.
Absolutely.
And so as you successfully complete one of the needs, then you can now begin to address some of the higher needs on that pyramid.
Right. But it all starts at the base. How can we utilize this pyramid when we're looking at passion?
If we want to look at it from a perspective of Maslow, and again, if there's anybody out here who is a Maslow fan and I butcher his theory, please don't beat me up.
Also same here. Yeah.
In the comments. Don't beat me up in the comments. But I think in order for us to really begin to see the vision, we do have to have those bottom level needs met, because I can't think about my passion if I can't feed myself or if I can't feed my family. So if we're in a situation where we're focusing on literally living from day to day, it is very hard to focus on a passion.
And I think also, if you guys aren't familiar with this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, it's a great read. It's a phenomenal book to help you get motivated to go out and find your passion, honestly. And so that also brings me now to the quote of the day, which is, "Whatever the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve," by Napoleon Hill. Phenomenal quote. Super, super important to consider as you're going through life. Nothing is impossible. You just have to be willing to rough it out, put in the hard work to get there.
Exactly.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Damn Good Advice. I'm your host, JD Lewis. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you're tuned in on YouTube.